If you've been wanting to learn music production but feel held back by not having formal training, this video is for you. When I first started, I was intimidated by the sheer number of options I could go in when it came to style and genre. I was also overwhelmed with how much I needed to learn, and I had no clue where to start. I couldn't afford to go to a music school for this at the time. In this video, I'll share 5 steps I used to teach myself music production. Stay till the end for an additional free resource to help you get started making a song step by step. Step 1. Start with what you have. When I first started music production, I wanted to get my hand on every piece of gear recommended to me. The only thing stopping me was, at the time, I couldn't afford anything. So I started with a free open source DAW from online called LMMS on my laptop, and I started dabbling in music production. Eventually, I asked my parents for FL Studio for Christmas one year, and they bought it for me. And my music journey continued. Not being able to access a lot of the gear professionals use allowed me to stay focused. I had to be creative to find free alternatives to expensive items, and I had to learn how to use the materials I did have access to create the best sounds I could. If I were to recommend a first purchase, it would be a solid digital audio workstation to get started. While LMMS was amazing for me to test out beat making and dip my toe in the water, I found limitations in the music I could create with the software. This is why I eventually opted for FL Studio. Thanks, Mom and Dad. I encourage you to not fall into the trap of thinking that you need a lot of equipment right away. It's a good idea to start with free tools or even a demo DAW before committing to any purchases. Just as a side note, FL Studio does have a free trial where you can test out the software. You just won't be able to reopen the projects you save until you buy a version of it. Step 2. Only pick a few free tools to start with. In my sleuthing for the free gear I could scavenge, I came across so many options. From samples to plugins, I downloaded everything I came across. This is where the "just because you can doesn't mean you should" saying really does come in handy. Not only was I slowing down my computer, I was wasting time and energy thinking that if I just got this sample pack, it would magically turn me into an epic producer. Spoiler, it didn't. Instead, I got even more overwhelmed and frustrated because of my unmet expectation. And I shut down because of the number of choices I had. Here are some of the free tools I used when I started using FL Studio for music production. Semantic sample packs for drums. Stock plugins in FL Studio. They're not free, but they're included in the Producer Edition purchase. My favorite plugin was Citrus, and eventually Flex grew on me as well. I did not use Serum or Nexus, and I still don't. Having less options gave me a chance to focus on learning how to produce music and create my own songs. Just by using the small set of materials I chose to focus on, which allowed me to improve in my skills. In short, starting with just a DAW, one sample pack, and a few simple plugins can be more effective than collecting a lot of tools right away. It's a good idea to focus on mastering these essentials first before expanding your toolkit. Step 3. Choose a genre to focus on. With music production, there are so many avenues you can take, from orchestral music to hip-hop. I chose to focus on EDM, electronic dance music, because it gave me structure, especially as a beginner without guidance from a school. Focusing on one genre allowed me to learn production techniques specific to that style and to measure my progress more clearly. Picking a specific style helped with searching for tutorials and finding relevant tips. I was able to search more specifically in YouTube, rather than looking up how to learn music production, which is more broad of a subject. I was able to look up how to create EDM. This made it easier for me to apply what I had learned and see results more quickly, especially since I could measure my progress within EDM alone and how much closer my song sounds to the EDM music I listen to. It's a good idea to choose a genre you enjoy and want to explore. I found that doing this didn't actually limit me. Instead, it helped to provide focus and structure early on. I will say that I did explore around different genres at first to see what I was most interested in and what I could tell I had an early grasp on. Step 4. Avoid falling into the trap of watching only tutorials and not producing. The free YouTube tutorials were a godsend when I first started. I was able to learn and practice the basics of how FL Studio worked, the basics of how EDM structure and sounds work, and learn more in-depth techniques about music production in general. Eventually though, I found myself only watching tutorials. I wasn't interested in creating music for the sake of learning anymore. I wanted to get better as fast as I could, so I tried absorbing as much information as possible. Soon, I found that watching too many tutorials without hands-on practice made me feel stuck. So, I knew I needed to find a balance between learning and creating. Doing this was key to my progress. I started only looking up tutorials when I was stuck on something specific. This allowed me to avoid information overload and continue making music. Also, I started taking notes on the videos I watched. I have a notebook somewhere with at least 10 pages of notes on mixing. Doing this allowed me to reference these notes later without having to go back to YouTube and re-watch these videos. It's a good idea to avoid the tutorial jail by setting limits on how many tutorials you watch before actually practicing. Trying out new techniques soon after learning them can help reinforce concepts and prevent frustration from lack of progress. Step 5. Share it with others. I've always been afraid of sharing stuff I'm not confident in or I'm still learning the basics of, and that's not a good thing. I shared some of my favorite works with my parents when I started, but no one else. But after I got married, my husband has made it a thing to share my stuff. I was so scared and cringing so hard when I shared this Cheeto song with his parents and a family friend, I love them dearly, I thought my ghost would escape. But the experience turned out to not be as bad as I thought, and surprisingly, it helped me gain more confidence in the progress I was making as a music producer. It gave me a better sense of my current skill level. Try sharing your music, even with people who aren't music producers. Any feedback can be valuable. And if you're like me and find that the impending doom is worse when sharing stuff with people you know, try posting it to YouTube. Sharing with people I didn't know made me feel a little bit better about how cringe my songs were. It's a good start. Here's a bonus tip. Have fun and experiment. As with many new skills I want to develop, I initially tried to rush through learning and felt frustrated. It wasn't until I relaxed and focused on enjoying the process did I start to see consistent results. Experimenting with new sounds and techniques kept things fresh and helped me discover what I like in my music. It's a good idea to focus on having fun and enjoying each music session rather than just being results oriented. Once the motivation is gone, truly enjoying the process helps me to stay consistent in learning, practicing, and producing. To help you get even more hands-on experience, I've created a step-by-step 5-day video guide to help you through creating your first song. You can find the link to the video playlist in the description below. It's completely free and ready for you to explore. Your journey to creating your own music, whether it be for your YouTube videos or your music production dreams, starts now.